and welcome to another Monday Mutant Madness. Sit back, prepare yourselves a nice tasty beverage in your Ninja Turtles coffee mug, and we're going to talk about some Man Ray action figures. I've never owned any Man Ray action figures at all until the last month. I was able to pick up both the Neca and Super 7 versions. I've still been unsuccessful for several years in trying to get the vintage one that I've wanted ever since I was a kid when I started collecting them. So first up, we got the old Neca Man Ray that came out in 2023. Towards the beginning, there might have been some preview reviews even as far back as last year on YouTube, early samples. He turned out fairly nice. He's a good sculpt, good size and bulk to him. He comes with the old harpoon gun accessory thing. And this version is based on the Archie Comics Man Ray, which is the original version of the character, basically. This and the toy line, of course. And he also comes with a little sea turtle accessory and a little friend called Glub Glub, who was in the Archie Comics. We'll get into that later. It's a fairly nice figure, good color, paint, sculpt, details. However, because of the fins, or whatever you call the ray parts of the Man Ray on his back, it's a fairly large piece. It's like it's mounted on the figure, but it's a separately sculpted piece. And it's very heavy and makes him tilt backwards like a lot of old Transformers with back kibble that just will fall over. So he's got a big tail. I stuck a little McFarlane Toys black circle base trying to stand him up. Would not stand up at all, no matter how I put it. So I end up having my thumb in the photo, just holding him up so I can actually get a proper photo of him. But other than that, fairly excellent figure. There was no crappy joints on this one. I didn't have to boil it for once. It actually moved out of the package fairly well. Next one is the Man Ray Super 7 from last year. Been out a fair while. This is based on the vintage toy sculpt, and it's blown up version of that mimics the same details and accessories. He comes with versions of his vintage accessories, and this rope with the anchor has actual like fabric. It's like a fake miniature rope, so that's really cool. Rather than being a piece of plastic, it's actually material goods, and it looks beautiful and it has a metallic sort of paint on it, and it looks so nice. That's the first thing I just chucked on him out of the package because it just looks so much better than any of the other accessories. A piece of rope's not terribly exciting, but in hand it looks quite beautiful. So unlike the Neca one, this guy can actually stand up. He's actually slightly bigger than the other figure. He's got the same ray back kibble, but it balances better. And unlike the Neca one, if we go back here, he's got those giant flippers on, which help him counterbalance as well as his tail. Whereas the Neca one has your standard superhero or wrestler sort of yellow boots, skinny foot, like a Marvel legend, so he just tips over way too easy. Yeah, the Super 7 one, easily my favorite of the two, just for objectively being the nicer figure, and it poses fairly well. A quick comparison of the two up close and personal. Super 7 on the left, based on the vintage toy sculpt, and Neca on the right, based on the Archie Comics Man Ray. Another comparison there, let's see them full size. You can see that while the Neca one is perhaps slightly taller, there's more bulk and girth to the Super 7 one. If you turn him sideways, he's chunky in the way a sumo wrestler is. He's very round in the middle, and he's also quite heavy. He weighs quite a lot more than the other figure does. So it actually helps his balance because the masses in the center are not up on his back or his shoulders, so it keeps him balanced well. So the Neca one comes with a few accessories. He's got two heads. He's got the old neutral head and the yelly head. I put the yelly head on because it kind of ties in with his first appearance in the comics. He's actually a fairly placid, friendly character, but his origin story I'll get into in a minute. He gets fairly angry. Comes with a few different hands. The sea turtle's quite nice. You don't get anything to put it on, like it just sits flat, so you kind of come up with a way how to display it, but it does look quite nice. I wish we had maybe 2 or 3 of those sea turtles. The little glub glub guy's nice, except his antenna is fragile as anything. It didn't snap off immediately like my eyeball did when I had my Muckman. His eyes just snapped immediately off. Okay, the Super 7 one comes with a bunch of accessories there. The orange is like the vintage style accessories. You get 2 sets of accessories with the Super 7 ones. You get the emulation of the toy, and then you get a whole secondary set where they like paint or give color to the same usually the same sculpt, but they put color on it and make it more kind of modernized without actually changing the accessories themselves. And it comes with a little starfish, little crossbow thing, some hands, 2 heads. Both the heads are fairly similar, just slightly more open mouth. Both look great on the figure. I just had a quick look at my shelf. I've gone with the one in the picture where he's got the closed mouth version. I left that on there. I tried both when I had it, but it definitely looks a bit better. And it also comes with a little fish guy accessory, but being based on the toy version, it's a non-character that's only on the card bio, and it's completely nonsensical, nothing to do with the actual Man Ray character. Unlike the Glub Glub, who comes with this guy, who's the actual proper character. But that was in the box before I busted it open. That's the old coffee table in the lounge. There's a bit of vintage carpet in the background there for people who enjoy that sort of thing. And they did mimic the Archie comics in the packaging. There's ones here, like at the top left, that's got Neca Adventure Series, which is referencing Ninja Turtles Adventure Series by Archie Comics in the 90s. Close up here, because the art was quite nice. There's some comics art they chucked on the box, did a fairly decent job. I don't have the vintage figure, but we'll still, I try and cover whatever media and stuff I can in any talk, whether I have it or not. So Man Ray came in several different color variations, apparently, which I don't know because I never even owned it. But Treasure of Trigger Phil enlightened me a couple months back during our talk. He was the one that mentioned about the several variations of colors, and he also, in addition to having several color schemes in the line, has a color change hot cold gimmick if you put them in like warm water, which I also didn't know about because I've never owned it. But yeah, I don't know which releases these are, but they released it a few times, and I don't know if this is the actual color variant or if the one on the left is perhaps actually faded with age. And I can't say for sure because they're old images I found on eBay. So here we got the profile. Portrait of Ray Fillet or Ray Fillet, the fist fighting fish, vital fish statistics. I'll skip the weapons, we'll go to the profile. You smell something fishy, that's because you just picked up Ray Fillet, the coolest sea creature to ever leap from the deep. Spawned from a marine biologist and a manta ray, that's actually proper for once, that's in the comic story we're going to see in a minute. Ray Fillet emerged from a toxic sewer pipe only to discover himself super strong and super slimy. He's a foot-fighting fish who helps the turtles when they're in deep trouble. Underwater, that is. Ray rescues best when he's submerged because his color changing transforms him from a water wimp to a fist-fighting fish, which is the toy. In the comics, he doesn't change colors. Aquatically assisted by fish sticks, which is the toy accessory, not the proper character, Ray Fillet filters out grime from the coral reef. Using his mean-faced scarfish weapon, which is that little like starfish, and Ray Gill gun, the foot don't stand a chance when they're up to the knees in water, and the weapons and accessories have the usual kind of silly puns and complete nonsense that have nothing to do with the character, but are all good fun. So I only found that a few weeks ago. They are doing a reissue, which is on the left here with that atrocious card art that was only on the very first year, and they keep reusing on these reissues because they don't want to. I assume they don't want to pay royalties to it because these are creator-owned indie characters, basically. Even though they're within a licensed toy line, they were created through Mirage Comics, and the guys there are all indie creators, so they have a certain amount of rights when it comes to these characters. So they tend not to use any artwork and stuff from those guys, so they don't have to pay them royalties, which is just how corporations go. So we get this ugly card back up there, and they've got the Nickelodeon up the top, but at least they've got the vintage Turtles logo, not the other horrible modern one they've shoved on the generic packages. And I don't mean the shows. Each of the shows have great bloody logos, but there's some generic logos only on certain modern toys that look awful. The card back is from the vintage one. The reissues don't have the kind of profile or art or anything like that, but I just put it up there because I couldn't fit on the other page. So here we have some old school Man Ray 1991 image used on, I believe, on promotional images and possibly on a t-shirt, but certainly not in my territory. So whether it was the UK or USA, I could not say. On the right side, this is the full Marvel Universe style profile thing from the Archie Comics source book in the 90s. So this is his definitive character. I won't read it all out because I'm going to get into it anyway in a minute, and it's kind of the same sort of thing went through before in the profile. It's a couple of pinups. These were from the same books, like the Archie Comics, Mutanimals, Ninja Turtles, Archie Adventures, and the source books would have pinups here and there. They're quite nice. And this is the first appearance of Man Ray, Archie Ninja Turtles #5. And I was thinking about this the other day, and my first issue I ever owned of this was, it was the one that had Scumbug and Worm on the cover, which is 3 or 4 issues on from this. But I thought about it. This was actually the first ever Ninja Turtles comic I ever saw in person. Like, the cartoon was on, and some kids had posters from the newsagent. And one guy at school, actually, his name was Joshua Sinclair. Not that he'll be watching this, but this is way back in primary school. I was maybe, I want to say 9 or 10 years old. And he actually had an issue of this in his desk, and it was fairly beat up. I don't know how long he had it in there, but we were doing like the desk tidy up day at school. The teacher's like, all right, you little shits, tidy up all your desks and get all your rubbish and old chewing gum and disgusting water pistols and stuff out of there. And he had this beat up comic in there, and he actually gave it to me because he knew I was Turtles mad. We were all Turtles mad then, everyone was at the time, but I was probably even more Turtles mad than other people because later in life I still was. It didn't go away. But anyway, he gave me the comic. It was a bit beat up. The cover was kind of hanging off. The staples kind of loose, but doggy. But it was perfectly readable. So I got to actually have a proper read of it. And in the issue, there's a guy who's a marine biologist who works at the aquarium, who cares about the old fishes and Man Rays, and he's a bit of a nerd or boffin. And he's investigating some illegal toxic waste dumping, which is why he's checking out this outlet that comes out to, I don't know, the river or ocean or whatever. And he touches this stuff, not realizing that obviously if something's toxic, ooze, nasty, you probably shouldn't touch it, not good for your health. And what he doesn't know is he thinks it's just pollution. It turns out that Shredder, Krang, Bebop, Rocksteady, and the story there at the bottom of the ocean, like the bases there, and they've illegally chucked some stuff out, including mutagen. So he accidentally touches mutagen. He was most recently around the Man Ray, so he mutates into a Man Ray, and he's pretty cool. He fights Shredder underwater. I don't know how Shredder can fight him underwater because he has no gills. He can't breathe. He has no way of propelling himself underwater. So really, but it's still fun. He fights Shredder underwater, and he knows kind of like that's his fault that he got mutated. And there's some other appearances in after the Archie Adventures. Mighty Mutanimals was a spin-off mini-series from that book, where a bunch of the side characters that were in the toy line of this comic would become a little team. It's a little team of outcasts and weirdos. And we also see the Glub Glub character, which is a little weird fish dudes with kind of hooky claw hands. That's like his best friend. In one of the comics, the character ends up dying, and it's basically talking about the oceans getting polluted and overfished and stuff like that. So here's some more stuff showing they had the Mighty Mutanimals 3-issue mini-series spun out of Ninja Turtles Archie Adventures, which I had back in the day. I had that comic and I had the mini-series and really enjoyed it. And they also did another several issues after that mini-series that I never owned or knew about until many years later, because they stopped selling the books at most places where I used to live back at the old newsagent in Christchurch. There was also going to be a spin-off animated series based on Mighty Mutanimals and a toy line, but it only got to the concept stage. And there's some old blogs online from the people that created these characters talking about. They're very brief. Read a few years ago. But they did design as this volcano base playset And there were some animation models, such as this Man Ray or Ray Fillet here, that were for a concept show, but the show got cancelled, and the same guy who created these characters did the show went on to do the Cowboys of Mesa instead, which played to a much younger audience, but also had a toy line that was not at Playmates, because Playmates didn't see the sense in releasing a line that would basically compete with their own Ninja Turtles, including characters that were already in the Ninja Turtles figure line. So it makes sense why it didn't get off the ground, why they went on to a different project. Ryan Brown designed a lot of, through Mirage, designed a lot of toy concepts and characters that went on to be used in the toys and animation. And he's also designed other kind of fairly generic mutant characters later on. And this is just some artwork he's done years later, chucked in here. They're just a bit of fun. If you look at them, they're kind of like archetypes, like the rat guy is in the cape is clearly like Gambit from X-Men. The Panther is clearly the Ninja Dude from G.I. Joe. The other ones I'm not so sure. The one on the bottom right in green with the helmet's clearly Thor, but why he has a Punisher skull logo, I don't know. And so Man Ray turns up many years later, 2015, in the IDW comics, where they do a new version of Mutanimals. You've got Mondo Gecko, you got Slash, you got Pigeon Pete, who was also a Nickelodeon show, and Michelangelo's on the team at the start. And this was a fun variation of Mutanimals. Like, Man Ray doesn't do a whole hell of a lot in this, so I'm just kind of covering because he was in it. So the animation model was done for the potential Mutanimals spin-off show back in the 90s, but the Murakami Wolf show didn't feature Man Ray whatsoever. And like, why? Because it had Mondo Gecko on the show, had other ones, but characters that were good guys became villains in the show for no reason. They were just one episode things to promote or sell the toy in that particular year. So I did find out many years later on here, Turtlepedia Fandom Wiki Ray 1987 TV series. It finally gives some information as to what the hell was going on here. It says Ray, not Man Ray, just a character called Ray, was originally meant to be an adaptation of Man Ray / Ray Fillet, a character prominent in Ninja Turtles Adventures comics. However, creator Ryan Brown and Adventures writer Stephen Murphy objected to the character being used as a villain because they've got part, like co-creator rights or whatever, because it was indie style comics. As it already happened to adaptations of Mondo Gecko, Leatherhead, Wingnut, and Screwloose, all of which are good guys in the core comics and other media. And thus the writers were forced to change the character into an unrelated fish mutant with a similar name, though some such material, such as interviews and materials from the show, still refer to the character as Ray Fillet. So in the cartoon, we get a one episode thing with some villain guy. He's just called Ray. He's all green with no real color differentiation. He's clearly still got some Man Ray parts and design, but they took off his ears and changed him, took his costume away, so they was not the same character basically. So Ray Fillet also turns up Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighters for the Sega Genesis or Mega Drive, depending on where you lived, 1993. And he had some more attacks. This game was as hard as balls, man. Like, I can play Street Fighter in the harder levels, but this game was super tough and unfair, and the AI was very cheap. I can't finish it to this day, even run the easiest level. So he does like an M. Bison style Psycho Crusher thing, like flying across the screen, spinning around, and a projectile attack that's kind of like reminds me of old Echo the Dolphin waves coming out of him. So I will be doing coming up, not now, but probably in a few weeks. I've got other characters to cover. I'm going to do an actual full in-depth Mighty Mutanimals retrospective. I already wrote a full written article several years ago, so I'll be kind of rehashing that, but then adding in pictures. I now have pretty much just about everything you'll see on the screen here. I've got multiple different action figures of now. Some have only been made for the first time ever, like Dreadmon and Jaguar have never been in toy lines before. So I'm going to be doing a big thing on that. That'll probably be a double length episode, but I've got some other ones to do before then. But thanks for checking this out, guys. I hope you enjoyed a little deep dive under the water with old Man Ray or Ray Fillet. I do like this character quite a bit, and I'm quite grateful to have these figures after many years of not having any version of them at all. So catch you next time, guys.